There are many sources that show how games can be used effectively in school environments as teaching tools. G, with his principles, explains how the design of video games can be emulated in schools with great benefits for learning. Kurt Squire performed a study involving students playing the game Civilization to explore the potential of learning through games. Both of these researchers have shown the effectiveness of games in education. I think the appropriate use of games in education, in their current state, is to follow Squire's study. That is to say, the use of games as an extracurricular learning tool for areas students can struggle in is the most beneficial use. In particular, I think my game, Diablo III Reaper of Souls, can be used to great effect as an extracurricular learning tool in middle school education. Since middle school is the transition between the fundamental education taught in elementary school and the more complex concepts taught in high school, middle school is the perfect setting for teaching problem-solving skills, as well as the concept of using previously learned knowledge as the building blocks for solving future problems. Diablo III Reaper of Souls is an action strategy role-playing game, but has also been dubbed a hack-and-slash dungeon crawler, as the game focuses heavily on combat to traverse each area. Although Diablo III's community has declared the game a hack-and-slash game, I feel there is a lot of merit in the strategic aspects of the game. There are a number of instances that reward the player for taking some time to evaluate the situation and formulate a strategy ahead of charging into a fight. Often, prior to a room full of enemies to fight, the game will provide a trap the player can activate to kill a large number of enemies in one blow. These situations encourage the player to think logically and evaluate a problem thoroughly before trying to solve it. These traps are also a great example of Diablo III teaching players to take all the knowledge they have and using it as building blocks to solve current problems. They show a player if they are struggling to clear a room, they might think about how in previous areas such as this, there was a trap to help them defeat the enemies. There will usually be a variety of enemies and groups that the player must fight. This is another way the game encourages the player to think about previous fights and how to use the information to solve their current issues. For example, there is an enemy called a Wretched Mother who has the ability to create more undead enemies for the player to fight. After a player has fought a few of these enemies, they hopefully learn that they should target them when they begin fighting to prevent them from creating more enemies to fight. Diablo III Reaper of Souls is a strong game for both enjoyment and as a teaching tool, but it does have areas that can be improved. The game provides 5 returning classes from the original Diablo III, as well as a new class in the Crusader for the player to choose from, and allows the player to choose to play as a female or a male, but all of the character options are limited to Caucasian. In fact, all of the human characters in the game are Caucasian. This could be due to the false thought that pre-modern Europe, which the game is based on, was a place with no people of color. That is entirely false and therefore should be changed in the game to represent the truth. It should also be changed in order to represent the more diverse player base. G has discussed the importance of identity in gaming, letting the player gain a deeper level of learning if they can relate to their character. Therefore, any middle school students of color would possibly gain less from the extracurricular lessons being taught through Diablo III if it remains unchanged. The other aspect of Diablo III I would modify for teaching purposes would be to include more strategic decisions for the player and toning down of the blood and gore, which is the main reason this game is rated mature by the Entertainment Software Rating Board, the ESRB, in order to make it more appropriate for middle school students. This game does a good job of supplying strategic advantages to players who focus on problem solving more than players who simply try to muscle through each level, while still allowing the latter to progress without too much difficulty. I think a way Diablo III could incorporate a more gameplay-focused mechanic for strategic players would be the idea of including destroyable terrain that a player could use to trick a boss into attacking through good dodging. These terrain would in turn fall onto the boss and do a large chunk of damage. This would be something not explicitly stated, but would encourage students to evaluate the fight and use this information as a problem-solving technique. This would be similar to G's principle of cycles of expertise, as the player would generally have a tough time using their practice skills and would need to learn a new strategy for a tough boss. Diablo III is a widely popular game that has a huge number of players worldwide. The popularity of this game alone, as well as the strength of its teaching potential, make it a great fit as a middle school teaching tool. Diablo III, as it currently stands, could be a valuable tool for teaching students problem-solving strategies and the concept of using previously learned knowledge for solving future problems in an extracurricular setting. However, after the proposed modifications, I believe this game could make its way into actual teaching curriculum in upper levels of elementary or middle school, as it provides a fun and effective way of teaching problem solving.